joining us right now. Proper Mike Malott. There he is. My man. How are you, Mike? Are you down? Like, are you back to earth, or are you still kind of floating in the clouds after what happened on Saturday in Vancouver?
What's going on, Ariel? Thanks for having me on. I'm still a little bit up in the clouds, man. I think part of it is just I'm getting ready for bed and I want to start winding down. And then I start watching stuff. I'm like, well, let me just go through the press conference again and watch some of that. And all the feelings come back. And it's like, I did that last night, still kind of on Vancouver time. So it was like 1 a.m. here. And then I'm like, well, I'm a little bored. Let me just scroll through some stuff that happened in the fight week. And I didn't go to sleep till like 4:35. After that, I was just like sitting in bed, like wired. I should have just gone for a walk or something instead. But yeah, man, I'm still riding high right now.
Did you wake up on Tuesday morning thinking that the fight, what was that you tweeted, that you thought the fight was coming up, or that you were, what happened?
So this isn't the first time that this has happened to me. It happened to me after the Mickey Gall fight as well. I think 2 days last time and then once this time, where especially like I don't sleep after fights usually. So the night after the fight, I almost never sleep. I'm just too energetic, and after this fight, just ended up staying up all night, and kind of the sun was up as I was like starting to fade a little bit, and then I kind of like kicked myself back awake, and I'm like, dude, I'm awake. Go to check my phone, and my coaches were going to grab breakfast. I'm like, I'll just get up and go grab breakfast with them and start the day. So I think part of that like delirium of lack of sleep, then when you finally get some good deep sleep, it's hard to like reset where you are in time and space. And so I woke up after having like my first good night of sleep, and woke up in the morning just like, oh, all right, man, like let's do this. Today's the day. And it was like a full, maybe, which doesn't sound like a lot of time, but like a full 10 seconds before I was like, wait a minute, like, no, I'm not in the hotel room. Like I was like, what's going on? I'm like, and then I remembered, I'm like, oh wait, I had memories of the fight. Like I fought, I won, like it's over, I won. Yeah. And then it took like another full 10 seconds where I had to like tell myself and tell my body, like, no, man, we can actually relax. Like you won already. Like it's over. You don't have to stay like engaged. So that was like a funny thing. And then that picture just went with it perfectly, where you're like, oh my God, I already won.
I also feel like you're kind of in the aftermath here now, sifting through all the madness, because I see you, uncovering like a Henry Cejudo tweet, and I see you replying to him, and a bunch of other people who showered you with praise. I think Aljamain Sterling as well, Gordon Ryan. What is that like in the aftermath to see these fairly big names in the sport speaking of you glowingly? And it's not like they're tagging you to try to get your attention. They're just talking about you, just showing you love, and you're uncovering it.
Right. Yeah. The fourth one was one of my best friends, Andre Feely, showed me some love after the fight too.
Love Andre.
We've been chatting. He's the man. I'm actually going to corner him in London next month, so I'm excited for that. We're going to fly out to England for that one, for him to spoil the party over in the UK. Yeah, it was really cool. Like all three. I mean, obviously, I've known Feely for a long time, so it's not as strange to get praise from your friends and long-term teammates. But those other three guys, like Henry Cejudo, Aljamain Sterling, and Gordon Ryan, like I've been fans of those guys for a long time, and it's not like they're just like successful fighters. They're like elites at what they do. Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist and then 2-division champ, and then Gordon Ryan, the greatest grappler of all time. To get like praise from those guys was pretty cool. I mean, obviously Aljo too. Like to get praise from all three of those guys was pretty cool. Just like just to like nod of the hat. And that's really what I'm in this sport for. Like part of the sport is getting your name recognized by like the masses, and that's where the money comes into play, and your financial future, and that's what the UFC is looking for, because that's how they market you and that's how they make their money. But as far as the like actual fame, that's not like a driving factor for me. It's not like a big. I'm not doing this to become like a famous person. I don't want that. Like once my career's over, I'd love there to still be like the nods of like, oh man, that guy was like a sick fighter, but not. I don't want to be like an A-list celebrity. What I do want is like respect from people that I also admire in this game, like having really good coaches, obviously my coaches, but like even Eric Nixick and Dan Ige coming up and showing like, we're like, dude, man, you killed it this week. And just being super nice. Like I've met those guys a few times in Vegas, and they're just good people. And same with, I met Eamon and Faraz Sahabi for the first time. And, there's obviously that initial like Canadian, we're on this, we're the guys holding the fort down with the Canadians on the card, but there was just like a lot of cool mutual respect between the three of us. So just getting that from like other well-recognized people, it's like these guys know what they're talking about and they're telling me I did a good job, and they don't gain anything from it.
Right.
I'm not their guy.
Right.
So like it's extra cool in that way. It seems more genuine.
So we talked on Wednesday. Just curious, what was the rest of the week like for you? Did anything change in terms of how you felt? Were you getting more nervous? Now that it was becoming a reality, you're fighting in Canada. Anything go differently come Saturday afternoon, evening?
I mean, of course, there were like ups and downs, right? There were some moments of just like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Like, I can't believe this is really happening right now. Like, this is a wild jump from, each fight has felt like a massive jump from the fight before of like, not only am I on Contender Series, but I'm the main event of Contender Series. And then I'm fighting Mickey Gall in an arena, for the first time in front of fans in years. And it's a massive arena. It's not like an Apex show. It's like, jump up to that, and then you're on the main card of the Apex show, which is like, okay, maybe not quite as big as being on a pay-per-view, but then the pressure of like, I'm fighting another Canadian and people are saying I'm potentially there's a little bit of hype. People are saying like there's potentially you're the face of Canada or the torch bearer moving forward. And it's like, as much as I'm not doing this for fame, it's nice to hear that, man. Like I like that stuff, and I like seeing that there's a potential for me, like an avenue that's open for me. And like, that's all going to disappear if you can't even beat the next best guy from Canada, let alone like the next best guy in the world, right? It's like, there's no way that's all going to disappear. So that was like a lot of pressure in and of itself. And then this one, there's a lot of pressure. Like, all right, you're the last Canadian on the card. They gave you this slot. Like, there's no way they just accidentally were like,
right,
here's the main event, co-main event, put all the other fights just where you think. Like, there was some strategy behind that. And I'm fighting a super tough guy. Like, Adam Fugitt did not get the respect he deserved throughout fight week. I didn't help with that at all, but he's a super tough guy. So it's like people don't really know his name as much in the UFC. So it's almost seeming like he's being teed up to lose to me. But at the same time, I'm fighting the most well-rounded and probably the best guy I've ever fought, at very least at welterweight. It's like, dude, this is a very real fight. So not only do I have to go in there and win, if it's competitive and close, it'll be underwhelming. Like, I have to smash this guy. And, then there was the stuff with the Nelk Boys and Happy Dad and stuff like that all kind of came together at the same time. Like, working with those guys in sponsorship, I'm like, well, if I lose this, that's, that probably won't go through, like, this is, you probably have to win for all this stuff to happen. And so there's little moments where there's like butterflies of feeling that. And then you have to like reset and be like, number one, I'm the most prepared I've ever been. I'm so ready for this fight, and I'm skilled enough to demolish this guy or anyone. And then three, like, none of those things actually change what's happening in the cage. None of those things change. Like, your placement on the card doesn't change what happens in the cage. It doesn't change my ability to perform. Same with any other potential like things we could have viewed as pressure. Had to mentally reframe them and label them as privilege and an honor to be in this position. And by the time I got out to the cage, and by the time the fans almost fell on me and almost took me out at the knee, once we got in the cage, man, I felt loose. I felt great. The closer and closer it got, once I heard Bruce Buffer announce me, oddly, I felt like I was like, dude, I felt like I was just in here. Like the Johan fight like 3 months ago, I was like, dude, I feel like I was just in here. This feels familiar still.
I want to ask you about the fans in a second, but just curious, 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, 4, like the Canadian wave is happening, and this is a very unique thing. That has to be, right? Because like now you're thinking, I got to close the show here, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that's something I had thought of before we got there for fight week. So like, okay, look where you are on the card. You're the last Canadian. What possible scenarios are there? There's the scenario of every single Canadian has won, and now you're the one who has to put the final nail in the coffin. You can't ruin the night and be the only Canadian that lost. Then there's the possibility that every single Canadian, including your close friends who you feel emotionally attached to, lose fights. And you have to like wipe that from your mind and go in and be like, if I lose, no Canadians won and I'm the only one holding down the fort. Like, I have to hold the fort down. I have to protect the house. And then there's like the everything in between of like my friends win, but the other Canadians that I just met this week lose, or vice versa, or what if this person gets hurt, and like there's like all sorts of things like those. Three of the other fighters on the card, Kyle Nelson, Deanna Babita, and Jazz Davicius, shared at least one corner with me. So I'm like, well, what about something wild like somebody breaks an ankle and one of my coaches has to go with them to the hospital, and now I'm down one. Like everything I tried to analyze, I'm like, what could possibly happen? Make sure we have those bases covered. And after doing what I thought was an amazing job of that, the railing almost hit me and fell on me. And I'm like, well, that's one that you hadn't considered yet, bud.
Okay, so can we talk about this? Because I'm watching it, and for a moment, I'm like, holy shit, did that thing fall on him? Did it fall on his leg? Like you kind of sidestepped it and kept it moving. But I mean, you go back and look at the clip, and we're going to play it now here as we're talking about this. It felt like you were that close to being hit. Were you actually hit?
I wasn't hit by the railing. I think what tipped me off, because I was so in the zone, and like I saw people leaning in to high five, and everything happens so fast. You don't like have necessarily a dialogue going on as you're getting out of the way of something. But I think what I thought was they were just leaning in further at first. And then I felt the person, and you can see it in the video, the guy behind me like bears weight on me as he's falling. And that is what I think triggered the like, oh, they're not leaning in, they're falling. And I just like hard El Matador, like stepped out of the way, like a little lateral step and turned sideways and just like tup, 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 like hiney over these guys. All right, like landed on the other side. And as soon as I landed, I remember the first thing I thought was, damn, that sucks for them. And the second thing I thought was, you've got a job to do, stay focused. Okay. Like, stare down the barrel. Don't even look at any other fans. Don't look around. Just stare down the barrel of the camera. Make awkward eye contact with the camera. You can high five people, but like refocus. And like 2 steps later, I completely forgot that happened until we got backstage and somebody brought out a video. They're like, "Dude, did the railing hit you?" I'm like, "What railing are you talking about?" And they showed me the video. I'm like, "Oh shit, I forgot that happened."
Wow.
So yeah, I completely forgot by the time I got in the cage. Like I was just so laser focused on the job at hand that.
Man, that could have been disastrous, not just for you, but for other people involved too. Like I've never seen anything like that happen before.
Me neither.
And the fact that you just kept it moving, because like we didn't see, I mean, I was just like, whoa, this dude is, I mean, I kind of felt then that you were going to win just because you were so focused, even people like almost toppling you over, didn't deter you. I love the end, the emotion that you showed. Again, that's one of the reasons why I admire you. You're not afraid. I love that moment with Big Dan. Do you remember what he said to you there? It looked like he said something to you right after, you won the fight. Do you remember what he said to you?
To who?
Big Dan, the referee. He said something to you, and he gave you like a fist bump.
Sorry, my mental coach, we call him Big Danny, and I thought you were talking about him. I'm like, did he come up to me after the fight? No. Okay, yeah, Dan.
Mergliata.
Yeah, Mergliata. Yeah, dude, that was a really cool moment. Eh? Yeah, you don't normally see that between the ref and the fighter. He was like super friendly and smiling. We were joking.
He was like happy for you.
Yeah, man. That was like, that really actually meant a lot to me. You kind of see it. I'm like, thank you, man. Like, that was cool. He just, checked on Fugitt real quick. And to be honest, with just everything that was going on, I don't remember verbatim what he said, but he just kind of was like, hey, man, great job there. And just gave me a fist bump. Like, thanks, man. Like, that felt good.
It was cool because you were like, I think from my memory, like you were both on your knees, almost like you had just rolled him, and you're just like, all right, good job. You know what I mean? Like that's what it felt like to me, and you don't often see that with the referee. And then you on the microphone after was great. Are you comfortable with what I said at the beginning? Are you comfortable with you now being the face of Canadian MMA as far as the UFC is concerned, not trying to take anything away from anyone, Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Arjun Buller doing his thing in other promotions, but it feels to me as far as UFC right now is concerned, and obviously they're the biggest, that you are the face. Are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with it. I'm not the guy that's going to like say that about myself at all, but like, like I've said, what I want to see, one, I want success in my own MMA career selfishly. And two, like I'm a fan of MMA, and I'm a fan of Canada. I want to see success from Canadians in MMA. Like I want our country to do really well on the world stage. And if I can contribute to that in any way or help kind of lead that new charge of this kind of next second wave that we clearly got started. Like we're hoping for a second wave, and as of Saturday night, it's a tsunami, man. Like 6-0, we really hit the ground running. That was the best way that Canadian MMA could have come back to the UFC after COVID, right? Like obviously we Canadians have been fighting in the UFC, but having just like the impact that having fights locally makes is incredible. Because like speaking from experience, like when I was at UFC 129 and I was in the arena, it like made it somehow not feel so far away from me. I'm like, this isn't some distant, far off dream. Like this is attainable. And there were probably some, 10, 12, 15-year-old kids that are in there doing some kickboxing and some jiu-jitsu and are really interested in it. And they're like, shit, that's just like a guy from Ontario. That's not some dude who grew up in Hollywood or grew up in Dagestan, like things I can't relate to. And I see success outside of my community, but like, that's just like a dude who grew up playing hockey and got into MMA and just liked it enough to follow it. Like I can do that. I think the impact that things like that have in 10 years from now, we'll still be feeling like the butterfly effect of UFC 289 10 years from now, I think, in Canadian MMA.
I feel like your next fight has to be in Ontario, in Toronto. What are the chances?
Come on, man. We made this one happen. We brought him home once. I just want to be like, how you have like performers that do like residencies in Vegas and stuff like that. Like I just want to be the resident like main card guy in Canada now. Yeah. It's like that's like best case scenario for me. It's just like, all right, man, give me a call when you're coming home. Like if I don't ever have to fight outside Canada, I'd love to travel the world cornering. I'm cornering Feely in London. That's amazing. But if I could fight in Canada moving forward, dude, what more do you want? That's absolutely amazing. And every time I've driven by the Scotiabank Center in Toronto for the last like 2 years, which is fairly infrequent, but every time I do it, I point at it and I'm like, I'm going to see you soon. We'll be in there. Like I will be in there and that place will be screaming for me. Like every time I pass it, trying not to get in a car accident while I'm like manifesting this. Like this is what's going to happen. We manifested it on last Saturday night. We came back to Canada. I've been saying 10 wins, 10 stoppages, even though that guy's super tough. He's good everywhere, no holes in his game. And, I'm pretty happy with the performance. I think it was probably the best performance of my career so far. And the one before that was probably the best performance of my career. I feel like just the things are moving in the right direction, and we're not just allowing them to get there. We're creating the correct direction. We're like constantly checking the map, constantly checking the compass, making sure we're moving in the right direction. And we have the perfect crew.
Any intel? What are they saying? I mean, I feel like it's imminent. What are they? I'm sure they said something to you on Saturday or while you were there. Oh yeah, they used to go to Toronto every December. That used to be a spot for them. Any intel?
Toronto in December would be perfect.
Yeah.
Just don't tell me for like 3 or 4 more weeks so I can chill out just a little bit.
You just want to. You don't want to be all anxious and all that, right?
I just don't want to have a date because I'm like, dude, I'm laser focused.
Yeah.
Like even you're joking this week, like, man, I can't wait to have nothing to do all week after the fight week and like not really train, go sauna and hot tub and just kind of have nothing to do. And every day this week, I have like completely lined up with things to do. I'm like, perfect. We're doing interviews. We're talking to this. We're doing this. We're doing that. Like I just had a meeting with one of my coaches this morning, just like we had a debrief of how camp went, how fight week went, and how the fight went. Things that we think we should or could alter about camp, things we could and should alter about fight week, and things we could or should, but just like, so I have 3 more of those meetings set up with my remaining coaches just to make sure like we're all moving in the right direction. Like, I think it's really easy to just be like, dude, I won. He didn't land anything clean on me. I got the stoppage. We got the bonus. The fans went crazy. Obviously we're doing everything right. Nothing needs to be adjusted. It's like, if it's just if we can just get a fraction better, it might make a significant change. And I know that because the Johan camp was amazing. The Johan camp was the best camp I'd ever had in my career by like a landslide. And this one was way better.
Wow.
This one was way better. It's like, it would almost felt like after the Johan fight, I'm like, damn it. Like, is that as good as it's going to get as far as like, is that the most prepared I'll ever feel? And then will things after that feel like underwhelming compared to how prepared I felt for that one. And this one, I was like, oh, dude, no, I'm way more prepared for this fight than I was for Johan.
And honestly, that speaks to your professionalism. Like, I don't know if a lot of people are meeting individually with all their coaches to see if they can get a fraction better. So, very cool to hear that. By the way, did you get engaged last week as well, or was that an old pick?
We've been engaged for a bit. We got engaged after the Johan fight, like a week after the Johan fight, in February, or beginning of March.
Okay.
So, but it was just like a picture of just like my fiance and I, and just like the biggest win, just like the.
Got it. Because I mentioned it to Jasmine, and she's like, "No, I think he was engaged." I was like, "Man, what a week for this guy! He fights in Canada, he gets engaged, he's rocking a Jets jersey. I mean, he is quintessential Canadian. I love it." I was actually saying something about you to someone. Like, I feel you remind me a lot of a hockey player. Like, just the way you speak, the way you look. Have you gotten that before? I know your brother's a hockey player, but there's just something very Canadian hockey about you. Like I feel like that's who I'm talking to right now, and that's a compliment, by the way.
Thank you. I was going to take it as such, regardless of how you intended it. But that's kind of like, I mean, that's like how I grew up, man. Like, I'm just like a young, I was just like a young hockey kid growing up. It just turned out I wasn't that good at hockey. But my brother was really good, and most of my friends played hockey. And like, I've grown up watching, Canadian stars, and like, watching like Letterkenny and Trailer Park Boys and stuff like that. And like, I had a cool one last night. My brother and I were just hanging out back, and my favorite hockey player growing up, Chris Pronger, messaged me. He's like, "Dude, saw your fight, loved it." I'm like, "No way!"
Wow.
And I tried to find this like old thing. I thought I had of like when I was in like 4th grade and I played rep hockey. It was like Mike Malott, his height and his town and his favorite hockey player. And I had Chris Pronger on there. I was like scrambling through all my stuff to see if I could find it anywhere, but I messaged him back. I was like, "Dude, I'm such a big fan. My uncle moved to St. Louis when I was a kid, so I started getting obsessed with the Blues, and you're my favorite player." So that was like super cool. And then just another cool moment from Vancouver was we're at the ceremonial weigh-ins, and they're like, "All right, everyone sit down except for you, Malott. Come on over here." I'm like, "Okay," which like felt like the theme of the week, dude. So quick side note, I've cornered so many UFC guys. I've cornered Cody Garbrandt when he rematched TJ Dillashaw for the world title. I cornered Uriah Faber when he came out of retirement in Sacramento. Like, I've cornered really high-level guys throughout their career, and I've never seen anyone do 2/3 of the amount of media I had this week. Like, it was insane. Like, everything that we did, they're like, "All right, you guys are done. Malott, you've got these 2 more," or like I'd get there early. It was like, and the cool thing was they're like, "Yeah, we want you to meet some of the Vancouver Canucks," and we chatted for a bit, and I was like, "Okay, boys," I'm like all trying to rehydrate and eat and stay focused, and they're like, "Oh, enjoy the show tomorrow." And they're like, "Oh, we actually got something for you." So they got me like they gave me a Vancouver Canucks jersey and put my name and 23, like 2023 on it. Like, I was like, "Dude, that's super sick, man." So
so you did make it to the NHL.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, hit it. I didn't message my brother. I'm like, "Dude, I swear I'm not a traitor."
Did you meet GSP there?
I didn't, man. No, unfortunately. Again, I was kind of really focused when we got in the cage, walked backstage, and then Chris Prickett, my wrestling coach, the one who got hit by the railing.
Oh, geez.
He said he's okay. Just, Charlie horsed him pretty good.
Damn.
But he messaged me, or he came up to me after, and he's like, "Dude, George St-Pierre was there." He was like all excited. I'm like, "Shit, man, that would have been awesome to like walk by and give that dude a hug." Like, "Hey, man, it's been a while since I saw you, but I was like 15 at the time, walking up to you with like a paper and a pen, all like, 'Hey, can you sign this for me?' And
Crazy.
had that poster in my room for the next 8 years or whatever. But yeah, man.
And now you're being serenaded with "Oh Canada" as you're leaving the arena. Now you're that guy to people. Crazy, man.
As like obviously special and important as it was for me to win that fight, like I don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating. Like, that meant as much to me. Like, they started chanting, "Mikey, Mikey." I was like, "Oh man, that's so sick." And then just one guy starts singing "Oh Canada," and then next thing there's like however many, like 100, 150 people all like belting it out. Dude, I was like, waterworks are coming, man. I
Yeah.
started crying. We got on the bus. I like buried my head in my hand. Megan O'Leary's on the bus. She's like, dude, are you okay? I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm so happy right now.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
So happy for you. Congratulations. Enjoy this
Thank you.
time off. Enjoy everything that is coming with all of this, and hopefully we get to see you. I mean, I threw it out there, but Toronto in December would be tremendous. Any opponent in mind, by the way? Anyone that comes?
I'm gonna focus on that next,
Okay.
right? Like kind of especially in the next month, kind of dissect the division and see what makes the most sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one that some call outs might be happening in the near
Oh,
future.
okay. You're not ready to do that just yet.
Not yet. I wasn't focusing past him yet.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mike. Very happy for you. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
All the best to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
There he is, proper Mike Malott. What a story. What a guy. How could you not root for that guy?